Lindner?
I'm here. I am unmuting. Can you hear me?
Yes, Lauren, we can hear you.
All right. I'm Dr. Lauren Lindner. I'm a psychologist in Kern County, California. I run a group of disabled veterans who care for wolves at my wolf sanctuary here. We rescue and rehabilitate wolves, and the veterans learn many skills and how to care for these animals. One of my veterans recently said that something died inside of him when he heard about the torture of this wolf in Wyoming. We run groups to Yellowstone every year to actually do wolf watching and photography. And we are hard pressed to want to return to Wyoming this year. As a psychologist, I want to say that the condoning of this kind of violence will haunt us all and will have far-reaching effects, as many of the other speakers have mentioned. I strongly urge the Commission and every other agency to pursue maximum felony penalties as well as jail time and fines against the perpetrator. That kind of violence usually entails someone needing to undergo psychological counseling. But because we don't view Cody Roberts' behavior as sociopathic, we view it as really just part of the norm, and that is a really serious problem. This is a systemic problem that is perpetrated by laws that allow such torture, and the lack of fines, imprisonment, and other appropriate consequences that would normally be applied to anyone who shows that kind of lack of empathy and inability to see the suffering or value in their victims. That is a key component of someone who normally would have to undergo some kind of psychological counseling. At the very least, I hope that people such as Mr. Roberts and others who engage in this behavior should lose their hunting license and should be barred from any future activity in that regard, including possibly even possessing animals in any context. We, as an organization, are willing to offer the $10,000 to make it, to codify this in law or in, however it needs to be spent in order to help make the seriousness of this crime real to people. And you can contact me at Lockwood Animal Rescue Center. We will absolutely offer that $10,000 reward or fine for anyone engaging in this behavior in the future.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have an in-house comment. Peter Mangold.
Hello, hi, my name is Peter Mangold. I've only been in the state here for about 7 years. I don't have multiple generations of family that have been hunters here. I came from the East Coast. I came here when I got a job with Yellowstone National Park as one of the resource management officers there to help out with all the wildlife things. I came to this state after going through schooling in New York, looking at wildlife management throughout the country, and I had heard that Wyoming was one of the best places to be. But then when you get here, you see these things like Cody Roberts doing that, and then you hear in hunting circles about people torturing other animals, running them down. You hear this as a constant thing in little circles in gas stations and everywhere else. And it seems like it's just a long-standing problem that just hasn't been addressed. And, I want to speak for the rest of us who aren't here, who can't be here, and may never be from here, that nobody wants to come here to see that. They don't want to come and see wolves being run down. They don't want to see foxes being fed. They don't want to see any of this stuff. And then to see that when it happens and someone's caught, that nothing is done, it's just allowing it to be, I don't know. It just allows it to happen and just kind of circle around and just keep happening and happening. But if nobody does anything, it's just going to become more and more of a problem. I just wanted to say that, it's not just Wyoming that's looking at this. It's just everybody. I don't want to get back into being a wildlife manager, because I hear that nothing's happening when something happens like this and there's no repercussions. Like, why would I, as a younger person, want to get into the field if I feel like I can't make a difference when I see something unethical like this happen and nothing happens? I'm sorry, this is a little unprompted, but I just wanted to speak my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is in the room.
Another one in the room, Jonathan Wall. Welcome.
Jonathan Wall, Teton County. I'm going to start with a comment I read years ago from Wyoming wolf hunter. He was talking about the predator zone, and he said, you have no idea what we do to them down here, referring to wolves. That just stuck with me. I believe in our state. I believe in the many exceptional game and fish wildlife biologists that I've spoken to over the years. I believe in the other professionals in game and fish. I believe that the many good hunters in our state will no longer tolerate these things. I believe that how we value and treat predatory animals in Wyoming is not acceptable. As a citizen, as a frequent backcountry traveler, someone that really values the wildlife in our state, propose 2 things. First is the prohibition of torture. That is the prolonging of suffering of all wild animals, including predators, and the prohibition of cruel handling practices with any species of wild animal. Second, implementing fair chase principles across all of Wyoming. This prohibits the use of any type of vehicle, including aircraft, in the killing or the pursuing with the intent of killing of our wildlife. Wyoming can become a model for ethical hunting that will reduce widespread unethical practices as well as cruelty towards predatory animals. We need to confront the myths, sustain the hatred and demonization of predatory animals. We cannot continue to treat animals this way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is in here.
Sincere.
Somebody looks like Chapman.
Thank you, President Ladwig and Director Nesvik, for allowing people and the rest of the commission. My name is Christy Chapman. I was up here before. I'm a professional dog trainer. I wasn't going to speak on this because I didn't really want to get involved in the whole issue, but I've been compelled by some of the really good testimony that's been given here today. I just want to speak to some of what that animal went through. As a dog trainer and a professional dog trainer, I've done a lot of studying of wild canids as well, because it does apply to some of the behavior that we see, and especially in this area, there's a lot of feral dogs. That animal, I did watch the videos, and that wolf was definitely tortured. The amount of trauma that animal went through before it died does make me very sick every time I watch that video. So I am very grateful that you guys have opened this up to the public. I realize that this is kind of beyond your scope of things, but I think it's a great first step in really changing what we have going on in this state. I'm also, I have deep roots here. My family settled in Rollins in the 1850s, late 1850s. I've been a hunter, I fish, I was raised in agriculture. I've done most of my career has been in agriculture. So I understand, the predator relationship that we've had in this state. What that man did was very unacceptable. And so I'm just so grateful to you guys for giving people the opportunity to make this, to be heard. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're back to Zoom. Donna Obermiller. Donna? Hello? You need to unmute if you can hear me. Hello? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. We got a stack of these folks. It's unbelievable. But we still have a time limit on this, so. Susan Kane Ronning. Susan?
Hi, I'm here. Thank you very much for letting me speak. I'm Dr. Susan Kane Ronning. I'm a licensed psychologist with a specialty in child behavior disorders. I conducted hundreds of evaluations on children, many of whom engage in cruelty towards animals and people. Animal cruelty is an early sign of conduct disordered behavior. It is repetitive and enduring with a poor outcome in adulthood. While not every child who is cruel to animals grows up to become a criminal, there's a strong correlation between cruel behavior towards animals and a lack of empathy for human beings. The majority of adults who commit violent crimes have a history of animal cruelty in childhood. Up to 70% of the most serious and violent offenders in prison have repeated and severe episodes of animal abuse in their history. Wyoming has a sanctioned and permissive systemic acceptance of wildlife cruelty. Children learn cruelty and violent behavior from those around them, and it is often multi-generational. Wyoming Speaker of the House Albert Summers of Pinedale says he knows Roberts and he's a decent guy. Decent guys don't torture animals. Engaging in animal torture and cruelty as a 42-year-old probably isn't a one-off. It's most likely happened before and will happen again. And it's not exclusive to Roberts. Individuals who torture and kill wolves or coyotes with snowmobiles and ATVs and crave attention for their actions by parading the event in person or on film have undoubtedly showed these patterns of behavior since childhood. These thrill seekers often have high impulsivity combined with low empathy. They demonstrate feelings of narcissism, manipulation, grandiosity, entitlement, dominance, and superiority. Their less positive attitudes toward animals are associated with higher levels of narcissism, psychopathy, and antisocial behavior. Studies have shown that liberalizing the killing of wolves increases poaching and wolf disappearances. Wyoming has taken it a step further and legalized this cruelty. By making it so easy to kill a wolf in cruel and inhumane ways, you have increased the likelihood that those individuals who gain satisfaction and power out of wielding power over other living things will utilize your permissive regulations to do so. Cody Roberts tortured and tormented a young wolf and made Wyoming's current practice visible to the nation. Roberts' behavior, like others, has been legally sanctioned, accepted, and rewarded in Wyoming, and has been happening for a while. It just wasn't supposed to make the news. Hunters and legislatures and others across the country and Wyoming are speaking out against Roberts' behavior, and they should be applauded. They're concerned, though, that Roberts' behavior will impact lenient wolf hunting regulations nationwide. Instead, they should start cleaning their own house and demonstrate the type of upstanding behavior that shuns behavior like Roberts. They should actively support legislation to change cruel and inhumane practices towards wildlife.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remind everybody on Zoom.
Yeah.
It's 2
Yep.
minutes.
Casey Prevedel?
Hello. Hello.
You have 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you. Hello, everybody, President, commissioners. So I work for Sierra Club Wyoming, and I'm a wildlife and public lands advocate. And just in the last 2 weeks, I've had dozens of emails, dozens of conversations with people that are really concerned about wolf management in Wyoming. And I think since the Game and Fish Commission and the department has a lot of sway with the Wyoming legislature, you've heard from the public. You've heard today, you've heard from Wyomingites like me and others. It's time for wolf management reform. The public is demanding updated predator protections in general. It's unacceptable that Wyoming places no limits on killing wolves in 85% of the state, basically saying you can kill without a license or limit. We are past the point of letting politics run our management. We should really look at science. I know CWD has been mentioned in other wildlife diseases. We have a natural solution to many of those diseases. It's predators. We need to let nature do its thing. If there's too many elk in Wyoming, wolves. If there's diseases in our populations, carnivores. We need to let them do their job, and humans don't have to manage everything. Basically just calling for updated wolf management, and since the Game and Fish does have that good relationship with the legislature, calling on y'all to make a change, listen to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Gevuk. I'm probably butchering some of these names, but Gevuk, okay. Nick?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Nick, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll keep it very brief. I am Nick Chivak. I'm a field organizer on wildlands and wildlife in the Northern Rockies for the Sierra Club. I do think it's important. There's a lot of attention on Mr. Roberts, but the fact is your state, both through the commission and the legislature, have created a culture with this attitude toward wolves and built the legal framework that allowed this to happen. So to act like there's outrage about this is just disingenuous. Obviously, this is not a one-off. We know this happens all the time. And in fact, this happened on public land, and that has people very angry. This is everybody's land and everybody's wildlife. There was a bill in your legislature to prevent animals from being run down by snowmobiles, and it died very quickly. And finally, I think everybody knows the only reason this fake outrage is coming over this from the state is that Wyoming is very eager to delist grizzly bears and implement a similar management regime. And I think you're going to see strong resistance to that from a lot of people. So it is time for reform and to look at this predator zone and implement some sound management of wolves. Thank you.
Thank you. Emma Jones? This says Emma Jones, a student at University of Wyoming. Reagan Downey. Reagan Downey.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Regan Downey. I am speaking on behalf of the Wolf Conservation Center and our members who live in Wyoming. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment.
Reagan, you have minutes.
Yes, thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of the Wolf Conservation Center. We request that the Commission strongly encourage the legislature to propose and adopt a variety of bills that would, among other things, ban the hunting of wolves with snowmobiles and other motorized vehicles, and strengthen animal cruelty laws to apply to all wildlife, including wolves. Our organization, headquartered in New York with over 5 million global supporters, often leads tours and trips to Western states and hopes that our guests will be lucky enough to catch a glimpse of wild wolves. Just last month, 10 of our most enthusiastic constituents traveled to Yellowstone National Park and the surrounding states, bringing in hundreds of thousands of tourism dollars. The Wolf Conservation Center, like so many other conservation organizations and tourism companies, will no longer support the Wyoming economy with our dollars if these egregious, unethical, and unscientific policies are allowed to continue. We recognize the power of the Commission in influencing wildlife policy and join the many local and national groups in requesting that you take a stand for the charismatic species that bring so many visitors to your state. Thank you.
Thank you. Rukama Rosenfield? She's not on. Kim Bean?
Hello, President, Director, and Commissioners. My name is Kim Bean.
Yes,
with
Kim.
Wolves of the
you
Rockies.
have 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. My name is Kim Bean. I'm with Wolves of the Rockies. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I was born and raised in Wyoming, and I am appalled. I'm appalled by the many things that are taking place in my beautiful state. Cody Roberts, and I will say his name again, Cody Roberts is the product of a systemic issue that exists in Wyoming. We have heard from the governor, legislators, and you, the commission, that this does not reflect Wyoming and your gold standard in wildlife management. Your words run hollow. The gold standard wildlife management is not the Wyoming standard, where snowmobiles, night hunting, and beyond are considered fair chase when killing native carnivores and other wildlife, where torture, cruelty, and abuse are legal. This should never be considered any type of wildlife management, let alone a gold standard. You are commissioners. You have the authority to implement change and to push legislation to change what you cannot. You can no longer be complicit. Roberts has given you the opportunity to work with all land users to create the gold standard in Wyoming. We need you to rethink the predator zone, where 85% of the state is kill at will by any means by these types of people. Zone these. Rethink and outlaw snowmobiles and recreational vehicles as hunting practice. That is our minimum demand today. Work with us in strengthening animal abuse laws. That should include all animals. Stiff penalties are a piece of that, but that is not enough. Change is necessary. No animal deserves what that wolf went through and endured. We are not going away. We are setting up shop in Wyoming until changes are made, and we prefer to work with you. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you. Vicky Marcus? Hello? Hello? Vicky? Vicky? Next. Casey Cochran? Trish Mary?
Hello.
Hello, Trish?
Yes.
2
Thank
minutes,
you.
ma'am.
Are you there?
Yes, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. You know, I have friends in Norway who've expressed horror that it's legal to run animals down with snowmobiles in the United States. I tell them it's not legal here, except in Wyoming. Anyone who did this in my state would find themselves in serious legal trouble. My Norwegian friends have a dim view of Wyoming now. The Wyoming Game and Fish Commission and the governor have condemned the heinous torture of this poor young wolf by Cody Roberts. You've condemned it while assuring everyone that Wyoming is the gold standard of wildlife management. I'm glad you condemned it, but that's just words. What are you going to do about it? I've heard many Wyomingites say that this is not who we are. But if an act is legal, it is condoned. It's saying, well, we don't like it, but you do you. Martin Luther King Jr. said that laws cannot change a man's heart, but they can restrain the heartless. Please work with the legislature to clearly define what is not legal means of take in the quote unquote predator zone. And while you're at it, the whole idea of a predator zone where certain species are vilified and have almost no is what allowed this horrid act to happen. A predator zone is not gold standard wildlife management. It is 1800 scorched earth policy against native wildlife, but using modern technology. Rethink that. At the very least, work with the legislature to outlaw running down wolves, coyotes, or any animal with motorized vehicles. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Norman Bishop.
Yes, thanks for having us aboard, Mr. President and Commissioners. As a former Wyoming resident hunter, a member of the Yellowstone Center for Resources team that restored wolves to the park in 1995 and 96, I just wanted to remind us all that decades of research in Alaska, the Great Lakes, and Yellowstone have given us a realistic picture of wolves. In his 2021 book, Restoring the Balance, John Vucetich tells us that the Ojibwe tribe of the Great Lakes consider wolves their siblings, with whom they have lived for more than 20,000 years. Today, we understand that all organisms, animals, and even plants have a common ancestor. That suggests that all of Earth's organisms are of the same family. Family members are entitled to be treated fairly. Vucetich also reminds us that a wolf is a living creature with a perspective, memories of yesterday, an interest in how tomorrow turns out, joys and fears of its own, and a story to be told. Those realities create obligations for us to be concerned for their lives. Finally, the health of ecosystems inhabited by large herbivores absolutely depends on the cascading trophic effects of predation. Wolves are our ally in limiting the spread of CWD and other diseases that afflict grazing animals. You don't kill your ally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Karen Brown.
Hello.
Hello, Karen. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, President, Commissioners, and Director for hearing us today. And I'd like to thank the office staff at Fish and Game who have fielded all the calls and emails. I'm here to talk about the wolf. We have established the outrage. But how did we get here? Wyoming Fish and Game's mission statement reads, in part, conserving, enhancing, and protecting Wyoming's wildlife. To this end, I ask the Commission and Fish and Game to begin to fulfill this mission for predators and all wildlife that are now considered vermin. I ask you to assist the legislature to change laws that allow a man to maim an animal with a snowmobile, abuse it, and only garner $250 of fine. I ask you to begin the work of re-education, coexistence, and respect for all wildlife. Your participation and endorsement of a healthy working ecosystem that values all of its members. Please, let's agree this is not an isolated event. Please ban snowmobile chases and killing. Ban traps and snares, at least on public lands, and work to change the attitude of the public by helping them accept the predators that are integral to the ecosystem. There are many groups right in front of you who will help you with no cost. Please reach out to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Linda Meyer.
Hello, this is Glenda Meyer. Thank you so much for allowing all of us to speak today.
You're welcome. 2 minutes, ma'am.
I gotcha. So, Wyoming laws need to be updated, and this is including running over any animal with a snowmobile and killing any animal in a killing contest. These need to be updated and include very heavy penalties for torturing any wild animal. At a minimum, running over animals should be illegal. Ranchers do not need this action as a tool for predator control, which is why that law was voted down in 2019. I don't know any ranchers who are going to jump on a snowmobile and run over any predator. I don't think anyone in Wyoming, I don't think anyone anywhere thinks Wyoming wildlife management is the gold standard. But now is the time Wyoming can make new enforceable laws to protect all wildlife. Thank you so much for listening to all of us. I'm sure you're going to do the right thing. And I will also say, as far as what happened, what you guys were discussing with the elk for previously, if you don't kill all the wolves, they can eat the elk for free. So that would also solve that problem. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Betsy Klein. Karen McSweeney.
Hello.
Hello, Karen. You have 2
Hi.
minutes. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you can. You have 2
Hi,
minutes.
and 2 minutes. Okay. Thank you for letting me speak today. I am not a wolf expert. I am not a wildlife expert. I'm not a hunter. I'm a girl from Brooklyn, New York, who comes to Wyoming and Yellowstone 2 weeks a year to watch wolves. I spend every single day in Lamar Valley. I've been doing it for 25 years. It's changed my life. It's part of my life. It's the thing that makes me happiest. And for years, I ignored the hatred towards wolves. I knew it was there. I can't do it anymore after this incident. I can't justify going there and spending my money and contributing to the treatment of wolves there. And I don't want to repeat every point that's been made today, but I think the point about the snowmobiles is so important. And I don't think there's the illegal part of what he did. There's the bringing the wolf into the bar and parading it around. But the more important part to me is the legal part. What he did was legal, hitting the animal with a snowmobile. And there hasn't been enough description of what that actually is. It with a snowmobile, I've seen descriptions. It's on the internet. Running it over back and forth, picking it up by the tail, swinging it until it's dead, grabbing a crawl out, leaving it injured behind, and this is considered sport. So there's the outrage over the things he did, which were horrific, but I have just as much outrage over the things he did that were legal. So I would just want to put that out there for everybody, that's just as important to change as the other more visible parts, the parts that we saw the pictures of. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Paula Ficara. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I really appreciate being given the opportunity to be heard today. I, like millions of people around the country, am horrified by the extreme cruelty allowed in your state regarding wildlife. In this case, of course, I'm referring to your native carnivores, specifically wolves. But what Cody Roberts did, he did a favor by publicizing what occurs regularly in your state legally. The cruelty that animal was forced to endure was not ethical hunting and was not justified. And I hope each of you agrees that no living being, whether you like them or not, should have to endure such horrors. Wyoming wildlife needs legal protection against unethical hunting and cruelty. State laws need reform immediately, starting with the banning and use of vehicles such as snowmobiles and other barbaric methods of killing with stricter penalties in place. It's concerning that the state of Wyoming has been given the responsibility to manage its wildlife and is not doing so. It is also concerning that the majority of Wyoming constituents' desire for wildlife protection is being ignored to placate a powerful few. I urge you to support and encourage Wyoming wildlife reform. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anjali Ranadive? Steve Westell?
Hello.
Hello, Steve. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak today. And I know that you would probably rather not be hearing from me and many people today. But as a lot of people mentioned today, the world is watching, and I feel like we all need to speak out. Let's put aside the fact whether you love wolves or you hate wolves, and even the fact that most serial killers or people that commit domestic violence start out torturing animals. Everybody, I think, in this room and on this Zoom today realizes that this happens to creatures, especially predators in your state. It's just never publicized like it is this time. But this person felt like he could put it out there because there are no consequences to his actions. He can be as sick as he wants to be because you have fostered a culture and an environment where this is seen as okay. I have to ask you, do you condone animal cruelty in your state? Because you have no laws or consequences in place to protect the creatures that you are supposed to be managing. From what everyone else is looking at from the outside, it seems that you cannot manage your wildlife the way that you say you can. Maybe it is time for federal help. I know that you don't make all the laws in your state, but you have an influence to make the changes that everyone here is asking for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Rebecca Nadow? She's not on? Okay. Kristen Vicara? I thought we just did that.
No, I'm here. It's
Okay.
a different Cara.
Okay, thank you. 2 minutes, ma'am.
I am not a professional advocate or anything like that. I'm just a person who is pretty horrified by this entire experience. It is haunting. I have had nights where I've had a hard time going to sleep because I have that wolf's face burned in my memory. The terror and confusion in its eyes and face, I think anyone with even a tiny little ounce of compassion cannot deny. And I'm really happy to see everyone that has turned out today to speak about this. And I really applaud some of the hunters at the beginning of the public speaking that are standing up for this, because this isn't hunting. This is torture. This is criminal. This is sick. It's not how animals or any living being on the planet needs to be treated, and it shouldn't be the poster child for your state. So I really hope that you will take care of your animals and the beautiful things that Wyoming has, and cherish them, and put laws in place that will prevent them from being tortured and brutalized in a way that is so completely disturbing to the masses, as you have seen here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Nathan Smith?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you got 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you for the time to speak a few words today. So with regard to the wolf incident, and I'm an Oregon resident, by the way, but I've been so disturbed by this issue that I took some time off work just to connect with this body today. The violence that occurred, the running down on a snowmobile, the running over with said snowmobile, and all the other suite of things that happened to this individual wolf is absolutely abhorrent and shocking. To the individual wolves and the perspective of the wolf, the pain and suffering is heartbreaking and disturbing. Like, I've been deeply disturbed by this incident for days. And I've heard other speakers here today mention the same. Clearly, it is appropriate that this individual, Cody Roberts, would suffer some sort of prison term, significant losses of fishing and hunting privileges, loss of the snowmobile used to engage in this activity. Where laws exist, they need to be enforced. Where they don't exist, they need to be created to provide more protections for carnivores in your state. Just to be clear, if the only thing we were talking about today was the chasing down and harassment of an animal via the use of a snowmobile, I would be very angry about that. But of course, that was just the beginning point, and everything else that occurred was just magnified it by 100 times. So anyway, I'll be paying attention to this body going forward. This is a critical issue, and like others have also referred to, this has unfortunately happened many, many times. Somehow this one was able to escape to the public radar. Once again, thanks for your time to speak and share those thoughts. Please do something about it, and so that we can be the stewards of wildlife and our wild places that we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mark Harvey?
Either is Mary. The next one is Crystal.
Crystal Lynn Gordon?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, can you have 2 minutes?
Thank you. Members of the commission, you say Cody Roberts is one man, and one man's actions don't represent Wyoming. But I have to disagree. This was allowed to happen in Wyoming, and the perpetrator has yet to face any real consequences. Because even though wolves are protected federally, in Wyoming, wolves are specifically exempt from wildlife protection laws, which is why chasing her down and bludgeoning her with a snowmobile isn't illegal in Wyoming. Duct taping her mouth shut so he could prolong her suffering wasn't illegal in Wyoming. Torturing and killing her in any way imaginable, including lighting her on fire, beating her to death, and poisoning her wouldn't have been illegal under Wyoming law. It wasn't until he transported her and paraded her around in a bar that he broke Wyoming laws. And even then, he's yet to be charged with the crimes that he did commit, and has been reported to brag that his $250 fine was worth it. I hear from you that you don't want your state to be associated with the torture and killing of wolves, but it is, because torturing and killing wolves is legal in 85% of Wyoming. And until Wyoming makes legislative change to ensure wolves are protected from the senseless and inhumane killing and torture, until Wyoming prosecutes Cody Roberts to the fullest extent of the law, then I'm sorry to say Cody Roberts is the face of Wyoming, and the world is appalled and disgusted. As the Wildlife Commission, you have collective influence, and I implore you to use it to protect wolves. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Meredith Horton? Matt Barnes?
Good afternoon, commissioners.
Yep. Matt, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. I work with the Northern Rockies Conservation Cooperative, a nonprofit that's worked in Wyoming since 1987 for the good of people and wildlife. The Wyomingites I've worked with, mostly hunters and ranchers, generally don't kill wolves except to reduce livestock conflicts, and most wouldn't condone running them down on snowmobiles. The last time I stopped at Daniel's Finest Establishment, now notorious, I was paddling the length of the Green River, investigating corridors by which wolves, wolverines, or grizzlies might reoccupy suitable habitat to the south. The conclusion was clear. Absent persecution by people, it could happen, but the state's policies are designed to restrict large carnivores to Greater Yellowstone. It's important for Wyoming to consider its policies for wolves and grizzlies within the context of nationwide recovery. predator zone and the anything goes killing of wolves that it engenders have effectively prevented nationwide recovery and thus delisting. The Fish and Wildlife Service will finally develop its recovery plan for the gray wolf at the scale of its historic range in the western U.S. That plan will consider suitable habitat throughout the Rockies. You may question whether adequate regulatory mechanisms exist in 85% of Wyoming, or perhaps the drawing of the DPS boundary so far south of Greater Yellowstone. I submit that an adequate regulatory mechanism would take a live and let live approach, incentivize conflict reduction, and retain lethal control as a backstop. The recent public outrage suggests that many people would agree with such a change in policy. Wyoming, the first state in the nation to extend voting rights to women, could extend the same right not to be run down on snowmobiles to all wildlife. And to the species that so reminds us of ourselves, onto which we project so much human meaning, the equality state could extend the right not to be killed simply for being a wolf. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Kalfa.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello, John. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to speak today. The violence, abuse, and cruelty that has taken place, not only in the case of Cody Roberts and this particular wolf, but all predators in the state of Wyoming, needs to effectively come to an end. Wyoming claims to be stewards of their wildlife, but these horrible actions, laws, and statutes that currently are in place do not serve the wildlife with which you have been poised to protect. They serve only a small group of people and damage these ecological systems to their breaking point. When 85% of Wyoming is a predator zone that allows lethal takes of all kinds that many have spoke about here today, that is not stewardship or ethical wildlife management. We are requesting full transparency when these types of actions occur and implore major change to these statutes concerning animal cruelty to all predators, and a full ban on wolf and coyote whacking, and the running down of wolves and other predators with snowmobiles. Animals of all kinds, be it elk, wolf, or bear, deserve the inherent right to walk these lands, to live, thrive, and survive without the painful persecution of us as humans. They are all vital, important, and most notably highly essential to the health of nature in the state of Wyoming. Cody Roberts is not the only one responsible for this heinous act. Wyoming Game and Fish, the Wyoming legislature, the governor, are all complicit and turned a blind eye to these practices long before the incident with Cody Roberts. I implore you to hear the comments today and know that Wyoming residents are watching and talking. Ethical hunters are watching. Advocacy and environmental groups are watching. Folks across this country and around the world are watching how this commission and this state take action beyond this meeting. These cruel acts cannot go unpunished. Laws and policies need to change. Wolves and other predators are not the enemy. It's time for Wyoming to actually become stewards of wildlife in practice, and not only in the hollow words and rhetoric spoken when an uncomfortable and inconvenient situation comes about. Thank you all for letting me speak today.
Thank you. Nick Quintana. Michelle Lute.
Thank you, Commissioners. I speak to you today as a PhD in wolf management, co-director of Wildlife for All, and on behalf of our Wyoming members and the majority of the American public who cares about science and ethics in wildlife management. The torturing of this wolf epitomizes the problems with our current wildlife management system, which does nothing to disincentivize the expression of hatred for wild nature, and in fact implicitly incentivizes it. Mounting evidence affirms that a lack of protections for species like wolves signals to an emboldened group of people that these animals are not valued and killing them illegally will not be punished. Where hunting has been liberalized, such as in Wyoming, scientists have found increased rates of cryptic poaching. Other illegal activity increases with liberalized regulations, but is difficult to track until someone parades their criminal activity in the local tavern. This incident is the flagrant manifestation of a systemic problem and what sociologists call the intersectionality of violence. Within days of this wolf torture, Cowboy State Daily had reported that, quote, Wyoming rates of murdered, missing indigenous peoples are among the highest in the U.S. This isn't a coincidence. A large body of evidence already links animal cruelty to violence, from domestic abuse to school massacres. By not sending a clear and unmistakable message that violent acts will not be tolerated and the rule and order of law will not be enforced, we endanger ourselves. My organization, Wildlife for All, exists in response to a growing call from all sectors of wildlife conservation, from scientists to hunters, who all see that current management is failing by setting policy according to the lowest common denominator. To make sure that this doesn't happen again and again, we must work together with the legislature to ban the use of snowmobiles as killing machines, strengthen cruelty laws, eliminate the predator zone, and reform Wyoming's management system to be more just, democratic, and focused on actually conserving, not killing wild nature. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy Pack.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Roy. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President, Commission. I'll be as brief as I can here. So the few points I want to highlight, and I think you've heard these from everybody else. I'm still questioning why he has not been charged with felony animal abuse. The reasons I've heard for that is because predators don't fall under that, be it statute 63108. Only excludes those animals which are humanely taken. I see nothing humane about this. As far as the predator zones and Game and Fish Wildlife Management, I would say that there really is no management with the predator zone.